Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to tonight's night ending bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads we put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's night-ending bonus, shall we? Tonight's first encounter. My experience with these things goes back to 1950 when my dad was born in Monroe, Wisconsin. He grew up in Avon Bottoms and went to high school at Judah. I was relayed stories by him and his siblings of Avon Bottom swamp monster. Now, to set the record straight, it was actually a Bigfoot. This was dismissed in the mid-60s when my dad was in high school at Judah as a pot-smoking hippie seeing stuff. The Avon Bottoms werewolf legend came much later. In 2003, a few miles from where my dad grew up, Katie Zane apparently saw 3 dogmen drinking water off of Sugar River outside of Judah, Wisconsin. She apparently had taken a lie detector test and passed. However, those are easily fooled, hence why they are not admissible in court. She was featured in episodes of Monster Quest in 2002. In the late 70s is when Wolfman were being reported in the Avon Bottom, Wisconsin area. These started getting national attention by the 80s, hence why every werewolf movie past the 80s portrays werewolves with a snout instead of a flat-faced human with hair all over its body. Not one werewolf movie pre-1980 portrays werewolves with snouts, going all the way back to the 40s Universal Wolfman black and white horror movies. That's because Hollywood was ripping off local legends in the United States and making monster movies in the 80s. Every werewolf movie of the 80s takes something from the werewolf stories of Wisconsin in the 70s. Now things get even more strange in 1981. Not far from where I grew up, less than 30 miles, there was a shape-shifting werewolf reported by a woman in Mineral Point, Wisconsin. Apparently, this was seen by 20 people. The woman claimed to see a person shapeshift into a werewolf while grabbing a handrail. I know exactly where this was. It happened in an old building where they used to run a haunted house in Mineral Point, Wisconsin. My first experience came late summer of 1991. I lived with my parents, older brother, and sister in southern Wisconsin in the woods in an old farmhouse, white with black shutters. Shutters were really popular back then. Our nearest neighbor was a half a mile away. Strange things happened at this place. I remember feeling watched several times there. I haven't lived there in decades. Surrounding this farmhouse, built in the 1860s, complete with root cellar and exterior basement vault doors as well, the house was surrounded by deep woods, and 3 sides of it were surrounded by crops. The back part faced the heavy woods. Every few years, farmers that owned those acres would alternate between beans and corn. This encounter happened when corn was surrounding 3 sides of our home. So that year, they planted corn. This was August of 1991. By the way, I'm the youngest of us 3. My brother, the oldest, had a room downstairs right next to the kitchen and adjacent to the dining room, porch, deck, and living room. My room was upstairs with my older sister. Everything was fine until late that summer. Keep in mind, the Beast of Bray Road didn't hit the news until fall of '91, so this was before that. This was a couple of hours west of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where Bray Road runs. My brother had complained of seeing yellow eyes looking into his room at night. We couldn't afford an air conditioner, so you would open your window at night. One night he woke up my parents upstairs screaming that a bear with yellow eyes was tapping on the glass of the window one night. He was around 12 or 13 at the time. My parents decided it would be best to move him upstairs with me and give my sister her own room, who was 9 or 10 at the time. I was 4 or 5, I think, because my sister would have hit puberty within the next year or so. They thought having 2 boys in the same room would work out fine, and her having her own room would have happened eventually anyway. That was not the end of what happened there. My sister had experiences for years after that, and my brother had nightmares for a long time. He would wake up in cold sweats. My mom would come and comfort him and calm him down. I was merely inches away from him in another bed. My parents converted our walk-in closet to accommodate an additional bed. But it was tight in there. Bedroom was only 11 by 14 at most. The bedroom downstairs where all this happened faced the cornfield north, and the back end of the house faced the woods west. My sister never saw anything, but several times heard grunts, snorts, howls, and said that it sounded like a bear with a breathing problem. One time, that particularly scared her. To this day, she tells me about it. My brother refuses to go there, either because he most likely forgot or it was too scary. Heck, it was over 30 years ago. Now for the 2010 encounter. This happened many years before any podcasts about cryptids. This face-to-face happened late July of 2010 in the Galena Territory in Illinois. At the time, I was preparing for grad school and working 2 jobs to pay for it. I'd graduated from UW Platteville in 2009, so if you were on campus those years, you saw me. My 2 friends, R and T, grew up in Benton, Wisconsin. They had their own creature called the Benton Monster. This encounter happened in September of 1970. Apparently, it was a Bigfoot-type creature. Their parents told me many stories of this thing, but nobody took it seriously. There was also strange stuff in the area. My 2 friends had a house at one time in Buncombe, Wisconsin. Basically, Buncombe is a road that is directly north of Illinois and directly north of where I had my sighting in 2010. They had all sorts of weird stuff happen there, from UFO sightings to howls. It's a beautiful area there, but definitely a little creepy. R and myself fished a lot. We had fished the Fever River so much that we had dwindled the smallmouth population. We had to find a new fishing hole. So we went 10 miles south into Illinois, into the Galena Territory. Now, of course, R's younger brother and 2 friends wanted to tag along. They were in high school at the time, and we were okay with it. That is, until one of them, while we were prepping our fishing poles on the trunk of Rob's car, closed the trunk. Snap! One of them pushed the trunk, breaking the tips of all 3 fishing poles at once. The fishing poles are made of fiberglass, and once they break, it's hard to fix them. There goes our fishing night. I called my girlfriend up at the time, and she was having a girls' night. So we had nothing to do but wait. And as fate would have it, somebody had mentioned we should do some ghost hunting. We were already in Galena and heard lots of strange stuff, so why not? Today's first video clip is from a family in Saskatchewan going for a drive. One of them caught something out of the corner of their eye and picked up their iPhone and took this video. Check it out. Once again, the opinion, or it's your opinion. I'm not here to make you decide yes or no on this, or whether it's real or not. It's all up to you. All right, everyone. So that pretty interesting. Not creepy, but interesting. Just how it's moving. Doesn't really look like a person to me, but that's my opinion, and you have your own. On to tonight's second encounter. When I was about 22, I was working for a small security company with about 18 people at the time. We worked at an area, a tourist location called Seven Falls in southwest Colorado Spring in the Cheyenne Mountain Canyon area. I remember the shifts being grueling, due mostly to the fact that we were mostly in direct sunlight during the afternoon and evening. In the average shift, we were expected to walk a minimum of 7 miles between the base of the parking area to the top of the falls. And rarely were we allowed to use the guest elevator for handicapped and elderly. The whole park was a hilly incline, so walking to the top down was okay. Bottom up, exhausting. In the evening, near the base of the falls, native Ute and/or Cheyenne tribal dancers would perform, and we had to monitor the crowds, which were slight breaks for about 15 to 20 minutes. These falls were frequented by area tribes for hundreds of years, and were still considered spiritual. So it was the native tribes that pushed for their performances, since Seven Falls is considered a state park. At the end of the night, we would sit at the main entrance into the falls at the bottom of the canyon off Lower Gold Camp Road and monitor the toll booth until roughly 1 in the morning, except during weekends and holidays. Then we were there till 3 in the morning. On several occasions, while waiting for the end of my shift, I always had occurrences that made me feel like I was going to be attacked by either an animal or a person. Guttural hissing, deep mannish groans, harassing growls could always be heard from behind the giant gate. Glowing eyes, either red or white in color, but larger than any wildlife, could be seen from behind the brush and tree canopies. But what stuck with me was the shimmering humanoid shape. The shimmering was otherworldly. The way I always described it to my family and friends was that it was like the Predator. My first work firearm was an older Smith & Wesson semi-automatic single-stack pistol. It was my dad's when he worked for the Fountain Police Department. But this was the first time I felt I was defenseless while working. I watched this shimmering silhouette crawl on the asphalt over to the toll booth, to what then appeared to be standing straight upright and extend a long waving arm. This looked like it was being phased between the physical and incorporeal realm. As I shifted my weight to look closer, I was awestruck. The glowing red eyes slowly came back into focus, and in a snap I heard what sounded like an animal climbing up the side of the toll booth gutter, and watched as the shimmer jumped to a tree no less than 20 feet away. From here, the shimmer jumped again. This time a broken branch fell from the tree. A loud crashing sound rang from the top center of the gate as the shimmer looked back one last time before going over the gate and disappearing into Seven Falls Park, bringing us to May of 2022. My old coworker and I ran into each other while at Walmart and decided to go to Gunther Tooley's diner. While having a burger and reminiscing of the good old days, he brings up, "Did you ever see the Predator in his active camouflage at Seven Falls?" My blood ran cold and dropped a shade to just about pale. He then proceeded to tell me about his experiences on his shift that I had never heard. After leaving that diner and arriving home, I sat in my driveway for a moment, contemplating what inhabits Lower Gold Camp Road. I love that encounter. I don't know why, but every time I hear it or narrate it, and I've narrated it twice, I just absolutely love it. I think the native part of me, hearing about the Ute, which the Ute were practically wiped out by the Navajo using skinwalker tactics, and I know people will be like, "Oh, that's not true," but really, if you honestly people did their research, they would know that skinwalkers don't live in Maryland, Georgia, North Carolina, New York, Minnesota, Texas. Very interesting experience. It just blows me away every time I read it. So I wanted to share it again. Tonight's final video clip. A guy hears some strange noises in his woods and comes across a very strange Dogman-like creature. Check it out.
Just need to get this in camera. Alien, maybe creature or some sort. So I have no idea what it is, but I'm just saying it's sweat God. Just trying to find it. What the hell is that? What the hell?
Very creepy video footage, and well, I'm really not sure what that is. It, to me, resembles a Dogman in its movements, but could be a Squatch. So, anyway, on to tonight's final experience. Tonight's final encounter. I was camping in Quebec, Canada. I was in a small tent alone because there were far too many people in the other tent. Here I am sleeping in an army-like tent alone with a roof not connected to the floor, which created an open space to the outside. It was a summer morning around 6 a.m. when I felt a terrible cold through my sleeping bag for a few minutes before opening my eyes. And what I saw was, first thing first, I realized I was outside, bringing daylight, and in front of me was standing a huge black thing, 6 or 7 feet away from me. It was standing at an impressive 1.5 meters, or 3.5 feet. I don't remember if it was on 2 or 4 legs. This encounter lasted less than 5 seconds because I thought I was dreaming. I closed my eyes, completely ignoring the red flag, and fell back to sleep before waking up a few hours later in the same spot, but the black thing was gone. Not too sure I wasn't dreaming, I finally woke up and looked around to see that I had been dragged out of my tent a few feet away from it. I crawled back into the tent and fell back to sleep for the last time. I asked the people that was in the same tent that acted as a watcher because my bad attitude as me, if he had noticed that I was gone. He replied that he pushed me to the side of the tent, but nothing else. After eating this, it confirmed to me that these things might exist for real, and I've been dragged out of the tent for some reason. I don't have sleeping problems either. This is my first experience. It's up to you to believe it or not. Strangely, I didn't notice any kind of cut or slash on my body. My second experience was in August of 2007. After doing some research after my first experience 8 years prior, I went to a park in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the Mount Royal Park. After downing a half a bottle of wine, I was sure there was a Dogman in this park, so like a drunken idiot, I started howling, waiting for a response, and nothing. I stayed for a few hours on the slope waiting for the night. I left by taking another trail from the one I had came in on, resulting in me getting lost in a cemetery in the middle of the night. I kept walking in complete darkness for about an hour. I was now able to see a few meters in front of me, allowing me to walk on a road. I panicked, crying because I was drunk, and started running after seeing so many tombstones everywhere. I just wanted to get out of there. 15 minutes later, I was finally out of that hellhole cemetery, just to be welcomed into a park by 2 glowing red eyes. I fixed on these eyes for a good 20 seconds before hearing a "hey." I panicked. I took a sprint, still looking at those glowing red eyes, going twice, even 3 times faster than I was. I don't think it was a car because of the way the lights were. They finally disappeared into the darkness, very far away from me, taking my breath while making sure no one was there. I started howling again and waiting again, and there was a response. I made the worst decision to ignore that howl, and I took a quick dip in an artificial lake, losing my shoes, socks, keys, leaving me without anything to cover my feet. Don't ask me how I managed to walk without them. I blacked out. When I'm drunk, I'm not myself, to say the least. I knew that because I retraced every step I did on Google Map and came to the conclusion I knew where I started and tried to remember everything. Like I said, I was very insanely stupid that night. Alright folks, that was tonight's night-ending bonus. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for helping this channel to continue to grow and go, and also making this channel a place where people can share their experiences, theories, and ideas without judgment and ridicule, simply treated with the respect that they deserve. It is truly appreciated, the community you have all created in that comment section. Thank you. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for answers. God bless.